Hey y'all, so I'm out here at Saddle Mountain today, and it's the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm headed out towards Cibola National Wildlife Refuge to do some wildlife photography. And I thought, well, while I'm on the way from Tempe, I would stop by Saddle Mountain and maybe look for a little bit of fire agate. This is my first ever video of an adventure, I guess you could call it, looking for rock or mineral. But I've seen some other videos on YouTube of people looking at Saddle Mountain, and I thought, well, that's pretty neat. Maybe I can add something to that. I'm pretty new to the hobby of rock hounding, but I do enjoy it. I do it pretty often, as well as wildlife photography. They kind of go hand in hand. And this is my second time at Saddle Mountain. And the first time was pretty recently, and I would say I had a decent amount of success. I think that generally the fire agate here is sort of rare, but there's definitely a lot of cool chalcedony. I definitely brought home a lot of that last time I was here, and I'm hoping that my eye is a little bit better this time than it was last time. And last time was my first ever looking for fire agate. So, also, I apologize in advance for my camera work. As I said, it's my first ever rock hounding video, so there is a good chance that I'm not even pointing it in the right place. I think that's a good enough introduction. Let's take a look at the mountain. I'm maybe a little bit farther away than some people, but you know, I'm just trying to find my own space to do the work. Beautiful mountain, beautiful day. It's about 65 degrees the day before Thanksgiving. I will jump back in when I maybe think that I found something, and you can let me know in the comments how many I missed as I was talking to you. All right. It's a few minutes later, and I thought I would take a look at what we're seeing out here. It's definitely more color, I believe, than when I was out here last. This has got a white top layer that I'm not exactly used to seeing out here. So as you can see, there's a lot of little pieces with color out here for sure, and some pieces that I think definitely have some potential. That looks like it might contain it. Now, of course, this is coming from somebody who hasn't even finished cleaning up the batch from last time. I'm pretty sure I caught a few pieces of fire, and I'm hoping that while I'm out here today, I find one that's very obviously fire to show to you. But I've got a question for you all out there. When you're at a place like this, where you're not walking really in a straight line, it's kind of a game of wandering, I wonder, do you carry your bucket with you the whole time, or do you set it down, wander a little bit, go grab it, move it, and then wander some more? I'd be interested to know. I do a little bit of both depending on how I'm feeling at the given time. All right, well, if I see anything else interesting, I will hit that record button. It's very much the nature of this hobby that I just realized maybe after being here for possibly a half an hour, that's pretty in ping, leave that for somebody else, that I had not even gotten to the place where I had planned on starting today. So that's a really, I think, decent indicator for this hobby. A decent little microcosm of it. Sorry about that little delay. There's definitely some color in there. It looks pretty white on the bottom, but you know what? As I said before, or maybe that video didn't record, I like to err on the side of caution as someone who's not an expert in this. So we're going to hold on to that one, at least for now. We can always drop it later if the bucket gets heavy or we find that that's an inadequate piece. But I just arrived. I made myself go quickly over some area, and now I'm going to be kind of walking up the old broken up basalt flow here. I got that bit of advice from another YouTube video that is incredibly helpful, and I forget the name of the fella who recorded it, but I will link his video in the description. I believe it is the most popular video on Saddle Mountain, so you've probably seen it. Oh, let's take a look at this before we stop recording. I gotta get my camera work down here. Can you see it? There's definitely something going on there. It's probably the banding is probably too thin to create fire. I'm really talking like speaking like I know what I'm talking about, and I maybe do a little bit, but it's more academic than practical right now. I probably already said this, but I think maybe the most exciting thing for me making this video is I eagerly await the treasures that I walked right over that you're going to tell me about. Because you all have better trained eyes for this. So I'll be back in a bit. Hopefully we find something pretty good here, at least to the quality of what I found last time I was here. Talk to you soon. So generally, as I've arrived at the location I wanted to start at, I've been pretty happy with what I'm seeing. Spotted this little guy, and I thought I would see if maybe I can keep my camera on it. So let's take a look. Luckily, it's not too bright today, so it is maybe possible for, there we go, for you to see here. This one looks like it might have the right kind of consistency to have what we're looking for. So I'm definitely going to hold on to this one. This one's going home no matter what. Now, one of the things I try to remember as I'm out here looking is that my first, second, and third priority whenever I'm rock hounding ought to be to have a good time. And I think that especially when you're looking for something gemstone like a fire agate, it can be a lot easier to forget that. And so I definitely try to remember that as much as possible. That the one real reason I'm out here is to have a good time. And I think it's easier when I'm out just looking for rocks that would be pretty, rather than these, which you know, I think the pipe dream probably for a lot of people looking for fire agate is that they find a great piece and, you know, are able to sell at it, not necessarily get rich. It's not, you know, a big hunk of gold, but that's pretty neat. Look at that. But that, you know, they might have a nice little windfall. They look at a place like fireagate.ca and see a sold piece of fire agate for $10,000 and think, oh, well, that's my car payment. And of course that's unlikely, especially at a place like Saddle Mountain, where I think probably even the best pieces are not the kind of quality that you would need for that kind of gemstone, but it certainly is a lot of fun. And I think one of the things I love so much about this hobby is that most people as adults don't get to look for treasure. You know, that's something that you dream about as you're reading pirate stories or playing adventure video games when you're a kid, and, you know, finding the chest with the treasure in it. And there's just not all too many opportunities in adult life to do that. And this is one of them. Especially when you're hunting something like fire agate or gold, I suppose. Being from Arizona, while you can look for gold here, it's not as easy as it is in, say, a place like California. So, though I've got the gear, it's not something that I've invested too much time into. This would certainly be around the right time of year to do it, because obviously it's so nice here at, you know, a nice breezy 65 degrees. Wearing a t-shirt in late November. Well, not sure that this is fire agate. That's certainly a big old chunk of chalcedony. I have got to get this camera pointed in the right place. I don't know where I think I think what my subject is, but yeah, see, it's all, yeah. I'm not used to looking at the screen because I'm constantly scanning the ground, looking for those colors. But you know, just some further ramblings from me. I believe I've probably been here, a little less than an hour. And I should have probably about 2 more hours before I need to head back to my vehicle before it gets dark. That's the one downside about this time of year, is it just gets dark so dang early. But of course, that's the case anywhere you are. At least here, it's an incredibly pleasant temperature. All right. The most appealing, oh no, I forgot to, oh crap. Well, I found a neat little section of chalcedony and some color on a rock, and I was going to hit it with my hammer, and then realized I didn't bring my hammer, because for most of the stuff out here, you don't need a hammer. I just have a little hand shovel. But what I am going to try to see if I can liberate that from the big rock. The only reason I don't want to take the rock itself is because the starting point that I hit today is just a bit farther away from my car, and I don't want to pick up too much weight too fast, because though I've gotten used to doing farmer carries, there is a limit to all things. Another little note about the beautiful Saddle Mountain area is, as somebody who came to this hobby from wildlife photography, the last time I came here, I saw a bobcat for the first time in my many travels around the Southwest in my 1.5 years here. And that is very exciting, especially as a cat person. So I'm hoping that maybe he or she will pop up again today as I'm driving out, and let me snap a pic with my long lens. Well, back to it. Hopefully this little section comes off here. So I was unfortunately not able to take a really clean piece off of that rock, but I also found that I left my little shovel somewhere along the line. Not a big deal, you know, not an expensive shovel by any means, but definitely probably the most useful tool you can have out here, just to get something a little bit larger. It's stuck in the ground, but you know, it's always nice to be an unwitting participant in the confirmation of the stereotype that men can't multitask, because I'm almost certain that I probably left it while I was filming something. All right, no more shovel, but hopefully some more good stones. Yep, see, having a shovel would be real nice right now. Foot time. It's definitely chalcedony, but even looking through the dirt there, I don't see enough color to think it's likely. I had brought my water spray bottle with me as well, but I decided not to bring it because it is pretty large and therefore fairly heavy. And as I said before, it's not a long hike from where I parked to where I'm going, but it is long enough that I've got to strip weight out wherever I can. So I'm almost making it to a place that I wanted to check out. I'm definitely a map fan as well, which is how I found this particular spot and what I thought might be a slightly less prospected section of Saddle Mountain. Not to say nobody's ever looked here before. I'm certain that's not the case. I bet every square inch just about has been prospected at one time or another over the last 50 or so years. But I'm hoping that this area is just a little more fruitful than it might be closer to the mountain, where undoubtedly many people are prospecting every year. So I'm just about to come up to that landmark, and maybe when I'm right on top of it, I'll join you again. Someone who has always had pretty terrible posture. I'm not certain that... Man, I'm bad at that. I'm gonna have to work on that. I'm not certain that I picked the best hobby, a hobby where you're constantly leaning over and picking up rocks, really reinforcing my shoulders rolled forward posture. Probably not thick enough to contain fire, but again, I'm definitely erring on the side of caution out here. But it's also, I wouldn't say necessarily a hobby that I ever had much of a choice in. You know, you're going around and you're exploring the beautiful state of Arizona, and you're naturally going to notice that there's a great amount of diversity in the geology. It's inescapable. And for me, rockhounding started when I was on a trip to do some wildlife photography in Payson, Arizona, a beautiful area of the state that is a pine forest, something that I would have never imagined about Arizona before I moved here. And anyone who has rockhounded in Arizona, or anyone who has read about rockhounding in Arizona, probably knows that the Payson area is a really, really great location for lots of different kinds of things. Started for me with fossils. Pretty dark. Take a look. Started for me with fossils, and went on from there Payson to geodes, which, you know, never really turned out, but was such an exciting thing to find that it really hooked me, even though the geodes were actually nodules and they're all pretty well solid. But a bunch of great agate in that area. What is this? And sometimes it's hard to tell if you're looking at desert coloration or actual coloration within the stone. See, this is beautiful, beautiful rock, but almost certainly no fire in it. And I picked up a lot of that kind of stone the first time I came here, and after going through them at home, I definitely, you know, didn't see an immediate need for most of them, and they became decoration in the yard. But it's just a good hobby, and if you like stones, you like looking for pretty things, and you want an excuse to use some of your tools that haven't been seen as much use lately, it's a great hobby, and there's so much that you can do to the stone afterwards, which is really the part that I'm just getting started in after having I've been looking for rocks for a little less than half a year, so not too long. Fairly new hobby still. What you're going to find a lot of here is little scraps of the kind of color you're looking for, and you'll see that all over. It's a matter of getting lucky enough, I suppose, to find just a nice significant chunk. So I'm seeing the right colors all over the place, but most of them are just little flecks. Not large enough to, certainly not large enough to contain fire agate from what I understand. So, a little bit unexpectedly, I have come to a fence. I didn't expect this. It's no big hindrance, all things considered. I can, of course, always just kind of move in a 90-degree direction from what I was expecting, but just a little bit of a surprise, and hoping to find a gate that allows me to cross it. We'll see. After navigating the fence, I took a look atop the landmark. I'll just kind of give you an idea here. And just looking at the fence, you can see, and the belief that I'm going to subscribe to, that it is first and foremost a fence for cattle, because as you can see, it is not a difficult fence to circumvent as a human being. So right now I'm on the other side of the fence, but you know, let me know in the comments if you think what I'm doing is grossly improper. I'd be happy to hear that. But until then, I don't think that I am gonna go. Boy, I wish I had that shovel now. I don't think I'm gonna go any further in towards the mountain, just because of time considerations and because really how much place here there is to find good stuff, that I don't think I need to walk any more directly away from my vehicle. So I know the camera work has certainly been lacking, and I'll have to definitely think about that going forward, but I do plan, when I am editing this video later, I will include some photographs of some of the nicer pieces once they're cleaned up. They'll be raw, of course. It's definitely a process to clean them up, and I'm just learning that now from some other great videos on YouTube, which I will put in the description as well. That's pretty. Let's keep it. But hopefully that'll make for a good first video. And I can add another hobby to my list, something that I think was always kind of inevitable, which is enjoying listening to myself talk. I just picked up this little fella, and he seems like a likely customer, so I thought I'd get a quick view of him before I throw him in the tub. Where it was pretty bright when I arrived here, I put on a healthy helping of suntan lotion, sunscreen. It's definitely become significantly overcast now. There's the sun, which I think definitely makes it a little bit harder to spot the color. Not impossible, and certainly will not be leaving early, if only because I'm heading to Blythe this evening, and there's no chance now that I arrive before it gets dark, so not really much of a purpose for me getting there any earlier than basically spending my time here till it gets dark. Oh, hello. Yeah, I think that is one of the best finds I've had yet, and even better, I genuinely just found it while I happened to be recording, so pretty happy about that. As I said, probably another hour and a half. I may start heading back towards my car in an hour. I would say I'm probably about a mile from my car, all things considered. One of the things I enjoy about doing this is it's like a bit of a puzzle. Now, of course, there's no necessity to be a completionist about it. You could just as easily roam totally randomly and probably find the same quality and material that I'm finding. But the location I'm in, up to this berm here, there are kind of distinct basalt flows running perpendicular to the berm. And what I've done as my bucket has gotten a little bit heavier is I am setting it down at the beginning of each new basalt flow and kind of taking it all in. And that's a nice big piece of what looks to be mostly chalcedony. It is quite a pretty piece, and it's always so tough to see what's underneath because of the dirt. I'm pretty sure this one is mostly clear, so I am going to leave it here. But it is just a pretty piece of chalcedony. And if you come out here, one reason I think this is a really great location is that it is mostly flat. There's no reason to really do any climbing here if you don't want to. Of course, that's an option. You can go up the mountain, and from what I understand, you can have success that way as well. But there is so much flat land around here with these basalt flows, so it's a really great location for older people, I would imagine, who are into this. Here's a little teeny tiny chunk with a nice amount of color in it. So you see, I probably heard I put the bucket down. It's not what I would describe as heavy yet, but it's getting close enough that I don't mind not carrying it constantly. So nice bit of color in that too. I think a lot of these, the layer of intrusion in the chalcedony is probably too narrow for the fire, but we can always hope. That's a part of the fun of it, I think. Alright, I'll get at you soon. Temperature is definitely dropping out here. It's lucky that I am still a recent enough transplant to Arizona to, I guess you could say, be appreciative in a relative sense to the weather and not be too bothered by 50s in just a t-shirt. I found this little piece and it's got a nice chunk of color going through it. I'm hoping that, at the very least, I'd love to find some small pieces of actual fire that would give me some decent practice in preparing them, which has been one of basically my focus throughout the week, working a 9 to 5, is trying to take some of these beautiful rocks that I found, beautiful minerals, and transforming them into something that can be appreciated by anyone. And it is pretty tricky and time consuming. And boy, have I spent a lot of money on things I realize later I didn't need, or were the wrong kind of tool for the application. But I suppose that's a pitfall of starting any new hobby, especially one on the back end like this that does require a fair amount of power tools. I've crossed back to the other side of the fence and the berm here, as it's getting pretty narrow between the berm and the fence, so it's making it kind of awkward to go in the way I was trying to do it. So I'm now going to generally head back towards my car, probably moving about as fast as I've been moving so far, maybe a little bit faster, just so it's not completely dark as I'm driving out of here. But generally, I've been pretty happy with my little trip today. I think the nice thing about rock hounding is if you don't expect too much, it's pretty hard to have a bad time, so long as you don't sprain an ankle or get snake bit. So yeah, I may check in if there is what I think is a pretty nice find. But otherwise, you may rejoin when I have at least washed some of these off this evening, so you can have a better look at them. A little lizard. Not too many lizards out this late in the year, but every once in a while. Alright, so the fact that I'm now more or less walking straight means that this adventure is just about over. It's getting near to dark, and as I said before, I'd like to begin the drive out of here before the sun is all the way down, especially to maybe get a chance to see that bobcat again. And I will admit to being a bit hypnotized by scanning the ground for the last 3 hours or so. So keeping an eye out in this section leading up to the road that leads back to my car. But I'm pretty happy. I will say that my bucket is not quite as heavy as it was last time I was here, but I also did not pick up really any purely white chalcedony this time, and I picked up quite a bit last time. So I'm pretty excited to clean this stuff off, have a look, see if anything might have fire in it. I know that I saw at least one or two pieces that I'm pretty sure that you could already see. It has a bit of fire in it. So look for that next. I've climbed a little hill here, just to see what it was like. Now, I assumed that because Saddle Mountain is thought to be the volcano that had the basalt flows that created the chalcedony and fire agate, that as I went up in elevation away from Saddle Mountain, I'd be less successful. But I would say that generally this has maybe been the best area that I've looked at so far. And though it's about to get dark, and I will have to call it here soon, I think that if and when I do come back, this will be probably the area that I try to hit with a little more order. So yeah, don't be afraid to climb, even if it's not the